They
This meeting is being recorded.
help us set up the Zoom links, and they really do serve as super hosts for the conference. The conference couldn't run so smoothly without their guidance. So welcome, enjoy your day, and we're glad you're here. I'm going to turn it over to Brad.
Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you virtually. My name is Brad Haskamp. I'm the State Director of Adult Education, and today we'd like to provide some adult education updates, give you a little bit of information about what's happening around the state of Minnesota in our adult education system. Before we dive in, I just want to give a big thank you to the Spark Committee for being our conference planners today. Thank you, Marilyn, for chairing the conference. Thanks to the entire committee for all of your hard work in making this conference happen. Just a quick note, if you haven't muted yourself, please mute yourself at this moment. I'm hearing a little bit of folks on the call. But thank you, thanks to the Spark Committee. You worked so hard at planning this committee and providing a lot of great information for the field of adult education and being an advisory committee to us at the state office at the Minnesota Department of Education. I also want to thank our sponsoring organization, Marty Olson and Southwest ABE, who is our state assessment training team. They also work with professional development and technical assistance for support services and support staff. And thanks to all of our presenters today. Thanks to our tech hosts, our co-hosts today, and all of the other entities that helped make today happen. And thanks for all of you for being here today. Some of you may have had some trouble with the links getting in, so I'm so glad that you were able to make it, and it's so good to see you today. Again, my name is Brad Haskamp, and I'm the State Director of Adult Education here at the Minnesota Department of Education. And I've been in this role for about 3 years. I'm going to turn it over to Jody. Jody.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Jody Versa. I am the Program Quality Specialist on the team, and I'm also really happy to be here with you this morning. And then I'm going to invite other members of our team. Our team has been a little bit like ships passing in the night lately, so we weren't entirely sure who else was going to be able to make it. But other members of the team, if you would like to introduce yourselves, go ahead. Otherwise, then we'll hand it back to Brad.
Hey there, this is Brandy Logan, the High School Equivalency and Accountability Specialist with the team.
Morning, everybody. This is Astrid Leiden. I'm the Professional Development Specialist on the team. Great to be here with you this morning.
Excellent. And then also on our team, we have Haley Swanson, who is our Records, Grants, and Administrative Support Specialist, our newest member of the team, actually, just joined our team this summer. We also have Julie Dinkow on our team, who is our transition specialist, and Neil Allard, who is our records, communications, and administrative support specialist for the team. So it's so exciting. At this point in time, we are considered to be fully staffed. Granted, we're still understaffed, but we are. This is the first time in more than 3 years that we've had all of our potential positions filled. So it's so exciting to be working with an amazing team like this. You know, our state system, though, is not just made up of our state staff at the Minnesota Department of Education. We have our Minnesota Adult Education Support Network that is also core to helping our state system run. And so those entities that are helping provide those services include Literacy Minnesota with technology and distance learning and volunteer training and outreach. We also have Atlas out of Hamline University that is doing professional development. And then we have Literacy Action Network that's helping oversee statewide issues and provide the summer conference, our summer institute. In addition, Southwest ABE, we've talked about, they do the support assessment training and support staff training. They also have a grant on racial equity in adult education. And then in addition, we have Panda, based out of Robbinsdale Area Public Schools, providing disability resources and assistance. And our Minnesota Association of Workforce Boards, sometimes called MOB, who's helping with our regional transitions coordinators and our collaborations with our workforce development partners. So these 6 entities provide a lot of essential support to help all of our adult education programs and help our adult education system function better. So thanks to all of our support network providers. In our session today, I'm going to turn this over to Jody now.
All right, thanks, Brad. So this morning, in our opening session here, we have a few topics to talk through with you. We have a couple of announcements. We'll spend a little time talking about some of our adult education outcomes for our statewide adult education system. We'll spend a good chunk of time talking about assessments and then some updates and reminders about high school equivalency testing. So we'll get started with just some announcements and reminders. First of all, we do want to make sure that everybody is aware of kind of what some of the processes are if you want to raise an issue or believe that there is something that merits a complaint. We do have you do have direct access to our team here at the Minnesota Department of Education, including Brad, our state director. Brad's contact information is on this slide, so you can certainly reach out to Brad. Phone is often a good way to get Brad. Also, we want to make sure that if you are observing or finding out about an incident of discrimination, that there is a statewide process for managing those issues and complaints, and that process is run through the Minnesota Department of Human Rights. There is a link here where you can find a little bit more about that. Certainly, you could connect with our team at MDE to get a little more information or to talk through initiating that process, but our team cannot investigate those kinds of complaints. We would pass them on to the Minnesota Department of Human Rights. So just a reminder and some information for everybody. I hope you don't need it, but if you do, that's some info about complaints or issues that you see that need to be addressed above you. Another announcement is we want to make sure that everybody across our state in our statewide adult education system is aware that we have started over the last couple of years piloting a couple of online statewide training courses. These are courses that are available to any adult education student or learner who meets the criteria for enrolling in the class in terms of their level, generally speaking. No matter where that student is across the state, the consortium, sort of their home consortium or their referring consortium, counts their contact hours, but they would participate in this online course that's available statewide. If you want some more information about that, there's a link on the slide. Astrid has put that link in the chat. Specifically, there are currently 4 of these training courses that are running. So this is not general, it's not ESL class or GED prep class. These are specific career training courses, one about healthcare. There's one for Microsoft Office specialist, one for paraprofessionals, so folks who are, hoping to become employed as a para in the school system, and one for TEAS prep, which is a prep to get into a nursing track. So we just want to make sure that you all are aware of those courses and passing on that information to students in your programs as appropriate. And then one more announcement just for you to be aware of. Coming early in 2024, so kind of the last week of January in 2024, there will be some folks from the U.S. Department of Education, so the Federal Department of Education, are coming to our state to monitor our statewide system. They will plan to be here for a week, and they'll spend a lot of time at MDE and talking to our staff and grants and finance staff at MDE. But in addition, they will spend a day or two of their time out visiting program sites across the state. probably more likely that they would visit programs they could drive to from the Twin Cities. But they are going to try to see different kinds of sites and different kinds of programs. So we just want you all to know that we are working through the process with them of sort of talking through who our programs and where our sites are, and they will be deciding some programs to visit. So if they decide they would like to visit your program, just know that our MDE team will be working together with you and your staff to be sure that you are prepared for those visits. All right, then I think I'm going to turn it back over to Brad.
Thanks, Jody. Yeah, so we look forward to sharing some of our state adult education outcomes with you. You know, and one of the key things about our state adult education outcomes is really the programming and our promotion through the Adult Literacy Hotline. This is operated by Literacy Minnesota through our supplemental service grant, or this as part of the support network. And we really want to make sure that your programming is accurate in SID. And thus, if it's accurate in SID, it should be accurate on the hotline. Some things to take a look at. You can go into the hotline and check, are your class titles correct? Are the class tags, hours, and class types correct? We've seen sometimes some errors or some things that are not up to date there. We also, are your class locations or your program locations up to date? Is your program contact information up to date? We just really encourage you to check this and make sure that this is up to date, because this hotline is the #1 way that many people get referred to your program from the Minnesota Department of Education and from our workforce development partners. So please make sure this information is up to date. Our state system is now currently comprised of 9 adult education consortia or grantees statewide. We were at 38 last year, but we have actually 1 new consortium that has joined our system, and that is the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. So that brings us to 39 grantees across the state. And those consortia have more than 100 providers total, serving at roughly 300 different adult education programming sites. Those sites could be schools, nonprofit organizations, correctional facilities, tribal nations, post-secondary institutions, career force centers, libraries, workplaces, and a variety of other locations, including online. So that is really exciting to see where all of the services are happening in the state of Minnesota. But it's a big system with 39 consortia, more than 100 providers, at about 300 sites. Wow, what a big system. And with that, how many people make up our system? We had this past year from our 22-23 data, more than 47,000 students in our system. That's enrollees. And they were served by 1,296 staff. 865 of those staff were teachers. And of those 865 teachers, 68% of those teachers are part-time. That's been a pretty common statistic for the last couple of years. In addition to the staff, we have 1,406 adult education volunteers in our system, which is still down from pre-COVID, but is still a very significant number. Wow, that's a lot of people that make up our system. It's impressive when you think about it in that way. And how did we do as a system according to the feds? So out of those more than 47,000 enrollees, we had almost 30,000 of them became participants, meaning that they had 12 plus hours during that July of 22 to June of 23 period. That was up from 25,000 from the year before. So that's really exciting to see that we are seeing growth from year to year. Another area where we're seeing growth is that in every single one of our indicators in the system, we had growth from last year's report. What we reported this fall to the feds based off of our 23 participants and criteria, we had more than 36% measurable skill gains, up from just over 30% the year before. Our target for this upcoming year is 28%. So we're right on track. If you keep up the great work, we'll meet that target. In terms of employment, we track folks who exited our system 6 months after employment or after exit and 1 year after exiting adult education. And in those cases, about 37 to 39% were employed, which beat our targets of 35 and 36%. And you can for this upcoming year. And you can see then in terms of those quarterly earnings of those that were employed 6 months after exiting adult education, their average quarterly earnings, or median quarterly earnings, I should say, were $7,750.50. That was up significantly from $6,889 from the year before. Our target for this next year is $6,200. So again, we're hoping that our learners are making far more than that after exiting our system. All 4 of those indicators, we did meet the federal targets, which is outstanding. One area where we saw growth from last year, but still did not meet the target, is in the credential attainment rate, where we were at 17.79%, which was a slight increase from last year, but not yet meeting our targets. This year, our target is 20%. That credential attainment rate is a complicated rate that says out of all individuals who are either diploma classes or potentially in diploma classes or co-enrolled in post-secondary, how many of them earned a diploma and were employed the next year, or earned a diploma and were in post-secondary the next year, or how many completed a post-secondary credential. So it's a pretty complicated indicator, but we have struggled to meet that one. But luckily, we saw growth in all of our indicators, thanks to the amazing work that you did. And we met 4 out of our 5 targets with the feds, thanks to your amazing work and your efforts. I'm going to turn it over to Jody to talk more about the report card.
Great. So we also just want you to know, or want to remind you, that there is an annual report card that gives some more information about our statewide system. And it's a way for you to compare the program that you work in with other programs and consortia across the state. So this is a quick screenshot of the 2023 report card, which is results from the program year of July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. And Astrid has put in the chat, you can find this document, the full document, on our mnabe.org website. So on the next slide is just a list of the different tables. This is the information that you can find on the report card. You can find about the amount of state aid and how that works out basically per student. You can find some information about MSGs for ABE students versus ESL students. There's a chart about post-testing rates, and then retention and persistence. So that's the information that you can find on that report. So we encourage you to take a look at the report card, especially if you're a spreadsheet data kind of a person, just for your information and for your learning and for comparison. And on the next slide, another reason why we mentioned the report card is because it is part of the program improvement process. So if you've never heard of program improvement, what program improvement is, it's a technical assistance process that just helps ensure that our statewide system is really reaching for our federal targets, including the federal targets around measurable skill gains. So the way that program improvement works is if a consortium has low performance on accountability measures like measurable skill gains, which includes, level gains and diplomas. Part of that process is post-testing. So if a consortia has low performance in those areas, they may be required to participate in program improvement. That might involve a workshop, probably will involve doing some planning and some strategizing, and it also involves talking to us and our team from MDE and just getting technical assistance. So in terms of the timeline of this, the report card is kind of the starting point of a program improvement process. Luckily, we really didn't end up doing a cohort-based process for this year's report card because we didn't need to. So none of you currently are involved in a program improvement cohort process, but we might do it next year. So just so you're aware of this timeline, the next report card will come out in maybe late summer, early fall of 2024. that report card will have data from the year we are currently in right now. Oops, sorry, that is a mistake on that slide. That should say data from program year 23-24. Sorry about that. And then in the fall, as a result of that report card, we may identify some consortia for program improvement. So we just want to make sure that you're aware that that's a possibility. Definitely not something that you need to be worried about today, but just something to know about in general. And then one more piece of information about our statewide system and how are things looking this current year. So we've, as you probably know, we sort of count contact hours starting in May. And so we've been tracking this year kind of monthly counts of contact hours and active enrollees this year compared to last year. And the great news is we are seeing growth. I think we all know COVID just drastically changed everything. And there was a pretty sharp decline in our system. We are not back to where we were before COVID, and maybe that's not even a realistic goal, but what is true is that we are seeing growth this year compared to last year. And we know that, you know, you all are sort of at the front line of that, of helping to do intake and support and assessment for students. So kudos to you, and thank you for the work you've been doing. And then I'm gonna hand it back to Brad.
Thanks, Jody. Well, one of the areas where we are seeing some change in our system is with assessments, as many of you know. So let's talk about some of these changes that are coming. First, we have some newly approved assessments from CASAS. Our CASAS Steps Reading, CASAS Steps Listening. Those are 2 ESL-based assessments, and our CASAS Goals Math Test version 2 have now been added to our state assessment policy, and they've been added to SID, so they can be used by you for NRS purposes for official pre and post testing. Please note you can find the updated assessment policy on our MNABE policy page, and thanks to Astrid for putting that in the chat. So just a little bit more to break this down. So in terms of our ABE level assessments with CASAS, CASAS Goals Reading is still approved through February 5th, 2025. That will likely get extended to June 30th. And then Goals Math, that version 1 is can be used now through June 30th, but that will no longer be, you can no longer use that for official pre and post testing purposes as of July 1, 2024. And then Math Goals 2 is now approved, and that is approved through July 13th of 2030. With our ESL level assessments, we have all of our CASAS assessments that had been approved before, the beginning literacy and the life and work, both the reading and listening. The approval for those ends June 30th, 2024. So they can be used now through the rest of this year, but as of July 1, programs need to move to a different assessment. And then what is approved beyond that are the listening steps and the reading steps. And those are approved again through July 13th, 2030. In terms of TABE, you'll see that TABE, forms 11 and 12, their expiration is coming up too, or their approval is ending in the near future. So DRC, which is the TABE publisher, they submitted new TABE forms to TABE 13 and TABE 14 for federal approval this fall. We do not know when or if the feds will conclude their review, nor when the new test will be approved. So just stay tuned. We'll let you know as soon as we hear more information about the approval of those tests. But just note that there are still more than 2,000 TABE online tests available for programs to use. If you have any, if you'd like to request some of those TABE online tests, please send a request to Marty Olson. And just a note, as you're thinking about changing tests, just remember that a level gain or a measurable skill gain, an MSG, can only be achieved with a pre and post test in the same series. So if you use CASAS Life and Work as a pre-test, that would mean that CASAS Life and Work needs to be a post test if you want a gain based off of CASAS Life and Work. Or you can have a student take a new pre-test in steps, and then after 40 plus hours of instruction since that pre-test in steps, you can have them take a post-test in steps, and they could then earn a gain that way. So a student could have a pre-test both in life and work and in steps at the same time. That's okay. Those are considered different series. And if you have any questions about how to enter these the new assessment info in SID, there is an approved assessment info on assessment dropdown in SID. And each staff person must log in and customize your test menu in SID. To get more details about how to do that, there's a SID help article, and thanks to Astrid for putting that link in the chat. Now I'm going to turn it over to Marty and Linda to share a little bit more about how to learn more about the new assessments.
Marty and Linda, there's a couple questions in the chat. I just want to know if Brad, maybe you could answer. What's the best way to find out how many online pre-purchase tests are still available for sites? And what assessment are the majority of sites do we think are planning our continuing starting in 2024?
I can say that in terms of which tests folks are going to be using starting in July of 2024, that's a good question. I think maybe folks in the chat can chime in a little bit more to hear about what their plans, but Marty and Linda will share a little bit more about that. And then if you want to know how many online pre-purchase tests you have available to your site, you would need to log into your testing account for your site. And if you have, and you might need to contact either the test vendor if you have questions about that. If you have need some additional tests, you can always contact Marty and Linda, or they might help you try to contact the vendor to learn more.
Thank you, Brad. That's what I was going to suggest too.
Okay, and this is Marty. Here's some information you can see on the screen. You'll be able to click on those links. Maybe Astrid will put them in the chat. So the first one just talks about the new steps and the new goals too, and what those series look like, what you can find out, where you can find out more information. CASAS has a lot of information on their website, as well as the ability to purchase tests. So that second link is there. And then the third link is today. We do have several sessions that will talk about these TABE recertification. Linda will talk more about the TABE and what we're looking forward to there. CASAS recertification, I'll talk more about the new assessments. And then Linda's doing an open mic session this afternoon as well, and that will cover both CASAS and TABE. So we do want to talk a little bit about how are you going to move from the current tests to the new tests. And there are there's all sorts of possible models, but we've got three here that kind of detail different ways that you could do it. Hard stop start, pilot, and rolling. Linda and I talked about these, and we both had a favorite, which happened to be the same one. So she will share that with you. And I'm going to present the other two. So let's look first at the hard stop start. That's where you just say, okay, we're going to continue using the current tests through a certain date, sometime toward the end of the program year, perhaps May. So everybody's going to be pre and post tested in the CASAS Life and Work series, both reading and listening. And then there's a cutoff at a certain point, and all students will take a post test. Now, all may not have 40 hours yet, so you'll have to work on that. But for those who do have 40 hours, they get that post test in June. And then July 1st, everybody goes to steps. Or goals too, if you're doing the ABE. So what are the benefits? It's easy. We're doing everything and, we're taking a certain test until this date and then we change. That's a benefit. However, challenges. What if the students miss that final post test? What if they're gone? All of those things might happen. And also the local staff needs to quickly make that switch over from one test to the other. So that's one possibility. It could work. The next possibility is the pilot model, where you have one group or one class of students start, say in January. They're designated that you're going to learn something from them as they take the pretest. But if you start in January, hopefully they'll have time to reach that 40 hours within a couple of months, maybe 3 months. And then they could do their post-testing at that point, and you'll get a picture of what that looks like. Whereas all the rest of the students will continue into this late spring, taking the CASAS Life and Work and then doing their post-test. Then everybody will be switched over by the 1st of July. So the pilot model allows some people to start learning what's going on. It allows your program to see how people test with the new test. That's a good thing. And then also, because some people have done it, they will have experience and be able to give information to the rest of the staff. Challenge with this one is keeping track of who's on which track, who's on which test. And also, all staff might, because they're focusing on one test, may not be ready, but they have to be by July 1st. So that is the pilot model. Now, Linda, tell us about your favorite.
My favorite is the rolling transition model. And the way that was going to work is all current students taking Life and Work will take that through December. And as they gain, make a level gain, they're going to transfer to CASA Steps and get a new pretest in January. The hope is to get all the current students that are attending at all of our sites transferred to Steps before July, so they have a pretest going into July. And then any new students enrolling, we're hoping to start in January at all of our sites that are delivering e-testing for now. And if we have our paper pencil order fulfilled by then, we will be delivering paper pencil at the outlying sites also. And then any new students can take Steps post test after they hit 40 hours of instruction after January. So benefits to that is hopefully it's going to be the potential smoothest transition from the student's perspective. And then most students will be able to hopefully get a gain. I've been through 2 transitions of tests already here at Metro North, and that this model has worked effectively both transitions. But it is still going to be a challenge just making sure and monitoring which students are on which tests. So then the next question is, how is your program planning to make the transition to the new tests? And have you already administered any of the new tests and any reflections to share? If you could add them to the chat.
I will remind you, as people are making comments, that a big thing to remember is to make sure that all students who are eligible have that post-test in Life and Work. We've got until June 30th to do so. So it's a possibility of a level gain. And that's what we're looking towards. So please make sure you get that done. And also make sure you order your tests early. If you're doing paper pencil, the orders have been coming, but it's a little bit slow. So make sure you get your order placed.
All right.
Marty and Linda, a question for you. It sounds like you both are wanting to do the rolling transition at your test sites, correct? At your program sites?
Yes.
Yes.
When are you Linda, it sounds like it'll depend on when you get the paper and pencil, but have you started at all with any computer-based testing on the new tests?
No, the plan is likely to do it after January 1st. The 3 sites that are currently delivering e-testing and it's all established and staffing's in place and systems are in place there. So, but that we're just hoping to get paper pencil orders because we've got several sites that are still doing paper pencil. And we're hoping to have the tests, that they've arrived by January 1st so that we can do it everywhere. That's
Yeah. That
Now, I
makes
do
sense. And
know
Marty,
that, yeah, Metro South has done a lot of e-testing already with the new steps. So there we go. Maryland just chimed in. So they've already got their transition well along the way.
excellent. Well, thanks everyone for chiming in the chat. For the sake of time, let's go to the next slide here, but you can feel free to continue contributing in the chat.
The slide that's shown here, very quickly, there was a take a test update, security update email that went out to the main point of contact at eTest users across the US, including here in Minnesota. So if your main point of contact or your data manager received that, please make sure that that information is forwarded to your tech department or someone who can update devices. Within the last 2 weeks, this message has been appearing on both devices that are delivering e-testing as well as proctors who are launching e-testing. If that test update is already done, Proctor doesn't have anything to worry about, but if this is showing up on testing devices, the URL that is being linked to the site is not up to date. So what you need to do is click on the Take a Test user guide and follow the instructions. And if you have any problems whatsoever, contact CASAS Tech Support. They've got a great team of people, super knowledgeable, will walk you through what it is that you need to do. And the tech support email is up here too, as well as the 800 number. So, and then I'm good.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Marty. Well, let's also share a little bit of information about the high school equivalency testing, or our HSE testing. Just want to remind folks in the field that both GED and HiSET are approved in Minnesota for adults in order to earn a high school equivalency diploma from the Minnesota Department of Education. And you can learn more about our HSE tests through the conference today. GED has their updates from GED testing service session at 11 a.m. HiSET has their session today at 1 p.m. And HiSET also has an Exploring the HiSET webinar on November 29th from 2 to 3 p.m. Another important update about our HSE testing is that students can take a full test, meaning one in every subject, for free right now here in Minnesota. Testers that have a Minnesota address should use the code MNHSE free when scheduling and paying for their tests. This is the same code both for GED and for HiSET. Again, it can be used once in each subject test. Note that retakes, though, are not free. And a student must have a Minnesota address in order to be able to access this code. Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's so good to see you. I'm looking forward to learning more with you throughout the day. Make sure that you stay informed. Are you already signed up for our MNABE Connect, our weekly newsletter that is distributed through Neil Allard and on our team here at the Minnesota Department of Education? If you're not signed up for the newsletter, you can sign up on the link here, and that's also in the chat. Also, information and registration for all of our professional development events can be found on the Atlas website at the events calendar. Finally, I want to say to each and every one of you, thank you for the amazing work that you do. Your work as support staff really you are the skeleton and the heart of our system. The skeleton meaning you give us structure, you give our system the logistics, you make everything happen. Thank you. Like, without testing, without the data input, without the intakes, you're the first face of adult education for our learners. Thank you for the work that you do. And you are just amazing, and you share so many amazing stories and have so much input in how our system is run. So I'm really grateful for all the work that you do. Marilyn, do you want to kick us off and let us know final things before we go to the rest of the conference?
Yep, thanks, Brad. That's great information that was shared once again. We're going to be busy this year with all that new testing going on, but it'll be fun. The couple reminders I have is that we, at the end of the conference, there'll be an evaluation form available, and we really use those to plan this conference. And so your input is a driving force behind what we do. And if you want CEUs, fill out the conference and they'll be emailed to you. I think that's it.
Sounds good, Marilyn. Please note that you can use the flyer to access links to our other sessions. So thank you all. We look forward to seeing you at the rest of the conference, but have a great rest of the year. Have a great fall. We'll see you in the sessions.